My name is Jesse Mwai, a pastor with Christ is the Answer Ministries, and what a delight it always is for me to be able to just share a few life lessons from the Word of God. And today I want to challenge you on what I have entitled 3 life risks that you must take to live a fulfilled life. Every one of us, there are 3 risks that we must take if we are going to experience a fulfilled life. Now, there are some of us who I know are risk averse. We avoid risk at all costs. We want to live a much more predictable life. But other than that, we must all take these 3 risks. I mean, you cannot avoid it. And the first risk that you and I must take is the love risk. The love risk. Now, love by itself is actually a risk. See, nobody is created to be alone. We were not created to be islands. You cannot live your life by yourself and just by your own rules without relating to other people. However, if you are going to love other people, it is actually a risk. I don't know whether you realize that loving another human being is a very risky affair. For instance, when I choose to get married, it is actually a risk because there are no guarantees. When we risk other people, we risk heartbreaks. When we love other people, we risk to be let down. When we love somebody else, we risk not to be loved back in return. It is a huge risk, yet it is a risk that we cannot do away with. And if you're going to be fulfilled, you must take the love risk. You must love not only God, but also love your neighbor. Love people around you, love your family, love your colleagues, even when they don't love you back, even when you go through rejection, even when you go through heartache and pain, even when they betray you, because sometimes they will betray you, but you must love people. Find somebody to love. If you're going to get married, it is a risk. It is a huge risk, but it is a risk that is worth taking. You become better. You are richer when you love other people, as opposed to taking a life of being in isolation and disliking people and being antisocial and not interacting with other people. The love risk is a risk that we must all undertake. The second risk, the second life risk that you must undertake is a faith risk. Now, as human beings, we don't know everything, but the faith risk suggests that there are things that you will do by faith, without having all the evidence, without having all your ducks lined up in a row. Faith basically means that I will take a step of faith, believing that God has gone on ahead of me, not knowing sometimes what is ahead of you, not knowing whether you will make it or you will not make it. Faith is a risk that you must undertake. If you are a person who does not take the faith risk, it basically means that there are things you will never try out. There are places you will never go to. There are experiences that you will never experience. And it reminds me of Abraham, who was called out of a very comfortable place in his home country, among his people, among his family, and God called him to lead him to a place where God did not even reveal to him, he did not tell him where he was taking him. He just told him it was a good place. I'm taking you to a land of promise. For Abraham, for him to experience God's promise, he had to wake up, take his wife, and begin that journey of faith into the unknown. The faith risk is something that we must undertake. The third risk, life risk that is critical and important for all of us to undertake, is the growth risk. So remember, I've started with the love risk, faith risk, the growth risk. Every one of us must choose to grow. Of course, we grow by default physically because we are human beings. Yes, we grow as we go to school, but we must also be intentional in growing through life. Till the day you leave this earth, there must be a growth pattern, a growth progress in your life. I must be growing not only mentally, so I must keep my mind involved and engaged. I must grow mentally. I must grow even physically, taking care of my physical body. I must grow psychologically. I must grow spiritually. But all this is actually a risk. Because it is a risk because sometimes we may not know everything. It is a risk because sometimes I don't know what's going to happen. but I must take that growth risk. I must risk growing in my business. Because if I'm going to grow my business, for example, my business is not just going to grow by default. I must do certain things. I must take a loan here. I must take a loan there. I must be willing to grow in my career. Growing my career basically means I must take a risk and go to school, go back and do postgraduate studies, for instance. Or maybe growing your family. It basically means I want to grow my family. I want to grow my children. I want to grow the number of children that I have. It is a big risk because you don't know whether you're going to be able to sustain the same with your resources. All of life is a risk. But if I can narrow down the risks of life, it's very simple. As I've already mentioned, the growth risk, there's a faith risk, and there's a love risk. Those are three risks that we must take. We must be intentional about if we are going to find fulfillment in life. Please share this video with a friend, with somebody else, either on Facebook or even on YouTube, and may the Lord bless you as you take those life risks.